Okay. Hello to you all. Hi, I'm back, coming at you live from my sister's bedroom. Her room has better lighting, and she also decided that she would move into my parents' room because she thinks she's a hotshot now. No, I'm kidding. Her room is infested with ants. Oh my god, look at this. Look, my grandma made this lovely pillow with our face on it. Isn't that funny? Okay, back to business. As of 2 days ago, my freshman year has officially ended because 2 days ago I took my last final, which was physics, which was a struggle, but we got through it. It happened. I passed. Freshman year's over, and that's crazy because that's 1/4 of my college experience kind of gone, and I feel like 0 time has passed. And it just makes me feel sad because I feel like I didn't actually do everything I wanted to do my freshman year. Both semesters were on pass-fail for me. I passed. Next semester I will have a rude awakening when I have to have grades for the first time. So since my first semester is officially over and it was like all good and stuff, I thought that I today would share with you 5 things that I learned about myself / mistakes I made / tips for y'all / what not to do / what I got better at. I can't really like pin down what this is supposed to be, but I think it'll be useful anyway.
Also, this video is sponsored by Grammarly, but I'll talk about that later on in the video.
This is also regardless of whether it's online next year or it's in person. I think these things could still apply. So yeah, let's jump into it. Okay, so first of all, I used to think I was organized. As of like literally 5 days ago, I hadn't done anything to organize my files on my computer, like homeworks or anything like that. Like, I didn't even have the most basic thing you could do, which is like have a folder for each class. Like, I didn't have that. For some reason, I thought it would be best to just keep everything in my downloads folder and nothing moved from there ever. And it wasn't just like my digital stuff, like my hard copy stuff I also had no system of organization for. I had basically one folder, and if I ever got a piece of paper from any class ever, I would just stick it in that folder. If I ever had like paper homeworks, I would just save them in the folder until my folder got too full, and then I would go back and like throw out the old ones and not keep them around because I was like, why do I need these? This does have real life consequences. Let me explain. For one of my classes, when we went online, we started scanning our homeworks in. So I did this for one of my homeworks. I'd worked so hard on this homework, and it was like a class that was like hard for me. So I was like, I'm gonna take a lot of time on this one. Like, I think I know how to do it. I'm gonna take the time, do every problem, do it right. So I did that. I felt good about it. I uploaded it. It was there. When we got the grade back, I was like, let me go see my grade on this homework that I absolutely nailed. It's gotta be like a 95 plus. I went to the grades tab, and it was actually a 53 out of 100. So I go to look at their feedback, and it just says like questions 4 and 5 were never submitted. I was like, you know what? If I just go get that homework and I like send it, then I can prove that I did it. Maybe they'll give me the points back. So I went to go find it, the paper copy of the homework. Then I remembered that I had actually thrown it out. So yeah, that was a lesson on why you should be organized and have some sort of system. I would recommend saving all your homeworks until at least they're graded and they can be really useful for tests. Honestly, I just say keep your homeworks. They're a great resource and you can prove that you actually did the work. In terms of like digital stuff, most of the time when I want to like reference a lecture, it downloads to my laptop automatically, and I would just keep downloading the same freaking lecture because it would get lost in my downloads folder. I would recommend, if you're gonna be like referencing lectures, to, if you have them downloaded, to like put them in a separate folder. So if you need to look back at a lecture, you can go into that folder and not download the lecture again. That was long. Okay, so next thing I learned / thing I was bad at / what you guys should not do / what you guys should get better at is when I came to college, I think my email writing skills were like pretty awful. I think I tend to lean on the side of informal, which is actually like the opposite of what you want to do. You want to lean toward the side of formal if you like don't know whether it should be informal or formal. Always go formal. One tragic example of this coming back to bite me in the was I was working on a UROP, which is like a research thing for this guy. So as part of my research, he was like, why don't you like reach out to some of these schools and see what their like policy is, maybe see if you can get some opinions. So I wrote a couple emails. I made them a little too informal. And this one woman, when she responded, let me find the email. She just responded, "Hello, Miss Wong. I don't know what you're talking about." And then at the end, she put a PS. "As a point of politesse, be aware that when you cold contact anyone, you should always err on the side of formality. Period. Always, period." Which is definitely my fault, okay? So I got put on blast by her. I didn't respond because I was scared. I probably should have. But yeah, so be formal. If you don't know what to do, if you're like, should I say like first name or should I say Miss something or Mr. this? Always go for more formal. You'll thank me later and you won't get put on blast by a random professor from a different school. These are the great things that I learned about myself. So I'm gonna interrupt the live from my sister's room. I'm back in my room and I wanna talk to you guys about the sponsor of this video, which is Grammarly. So I'm sure a bunch of you guys have heard of Grammarly before. I had definitely also heard of Grammarly before I started using it, but Grammarly is a digital writing assistant. It helps you provide more clear and effective communication. Grammarly has a lot of different product offerings, including a browser extension, a desktop app, and a mobile keyboard app that allows you to access its basic writing corrections for free. For students like me, Grammarly can be especially helpful because we're always writing essays or writing emails. I feel like for students, we're always writing emails for some reason. Grammarly is also great during finals because a lot of classes have final papers. So this is right now the browser attachment and it's working in Google Docs. So let's pretend I'm drafting an email. I say, "Hello, professor. Hope you're doing well." So this thing will pop up and you can see that it's corrected my pronoun usage from hope to I hope. So you just click on that and it changes it for you. I think my favorite thing about Grammarly and the coolest thing that it does is the goal section of the in-depth text editor. The fact that you can set like formality, tone, audience, all that is so cool and would be really helpful to me when I try to write my formal emails. With the free version, you'll get basic checks of like spelling and grammar. With the premium version, you can get more advanced checks like vocabulary suggestions, conciseness suggestions, sentence structure corrections, and a plagiarism detector. So you can go to grammarly.com/Nina Wong to sign up for a free account and get 20% off Grammarly Premium, and I will leave that link in the description below. So go make your writing better and don't make the mistakes that I made. Okay, back to the video. Okay, so third thing that I kind of like learned / what you should do, I realized that going into college, my resume was a disaster, which is weird because I feel like I structured my resume based on like what I submitted to the Common App. I was like, oh, like worked so well, like my resume must be amazing. Actually, it wasn't, but I fixed it. Basically, once you hit college, your high school achievements really aren't gonna be impressive to employers. Like it might fly like beginning of freshman year because obviously you don't have much from college or like outside of high school to put on your resume. But as soon as you get involved in like clubs, if you have a leadership position, you're gonna want to replace your high school achievements with that. And if you get any research, you obviously want to put that on there. I also didn't have a skills section. I don't know why. I also didn't even put MIT on my resume, which is stupid. So yes. The good thing about this was that I attended a resume workshop. I actually went to 2 and they like really like dug deep and they fixed my resume pretty close to the beginning of the year. So I never sent out like a terrible version of my resume. It was always like a upgraded version. I don't know if this is like true for other schools, but I used my resume to apply to like clubs. I don't know if that's just a MIT thing that we like are stupidly exclusive, but whatever. So I had to have my resume fixed for that, and they kind of looked at my resume and they were like, what are you doing? Definitely find a resume workshop. I'm sure that a bunch of people offer them at the beginning of the year, like clubs or whatever. I got my resume fixed by 2 different business clubs who both rejected me later, but that's okay. So yeah, make sure you have a okay resume because that's obviously the first thing that employers are gonna see from you, and if it's bad, then they will not consider you. The next thing I realized is that being in college is kind of different from being in high school in the fact that you always, like there's never a time that you can't be doing stuff, if that makes sense. Like in high school, you're like, okay, my clubs will never go past like 9 p.m. or whatever. Usually they're just right after school. Once you hit college, since everyone lives there, You can literally have meetings at like 11 p.m. But sometimes it's not easy to adjust to those weird meeting times. There were a lot of times that I just totally forgot about a meeting and I either missed it or showed up late. So what I would recommend, and I think most institutions and clubs will work for this, is to use Google Calendar. When I was in high school, I never used Google Calendar because my schedule was so easy to memorize because I was like, school, sports, home. Or school, club, home. Like it was not complicated. There was nothing that like I needed to write down because like I knew it. It was like simple. But when I got to college, I suddenly had all these like random meetings that I kept forgetting about. So I started using Google Calendar, and it's really helpful because all the clubs I was in had its own Google Calendar that you could add to your Google Calendar, so you didn't actually have to like manually put in anything. There's even like a thing for MIT to import the calendar for your classes, so you have those times marked out too. And it would give me a notification when I had to go to a meeting and I wouldn't miss it and forget it or show up late, and that's great. So Google Calendar is your savior. I also missed a college interview once. That was bad because I didn't use Google Calendar. Oh, these are just slowly exposing how bad I am at life. That's okay. It's fine. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is kind of like a more, I don't know, introspective, spiritual one. Not spiritual, maybe spiritual. Whatever. All throughout high school and when I first got to college, I had the tendency to correlate my competency in school and in life with how I was doing academically compared to my peers. So in high school, I kind of thought that I was like amazing. No, that's not true. When I was in high school, I was like, I'm good at school. I'm gonna go to a good college. I'm gonna have a good career. And that was because I was considered one of the smart people in my grade, in my public high school. And I kind of thrived off that energy. Everyone was like, oh, like, you definitely did well on this test because you're smart. And I was like, oh, well, you're right. That sounds so bad. I wasn't annoying about it, I swear. I was never someone to brag about my grades, but yeah. And then when I got to MIT, and I knew this going in, everyone says like, oh, the people at top schools, they like struggle because everyone else is smart or smarter than them, and they're not used to it and they can't handle it. And I knew that going in, and I was like, you know what? That's probably gonna happen to me, but like I can handle it. My ego isn't that big. I can handle people being smarter than me. And that was true to an extent. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, like I'm so dumb. Like this has never happened to me before. This is never something like that I've experienced before. Like the thing that it did have an effect on was I started to feel like I wouldn't succeed. So like one example of that is when I went to my first career fair. And when you go to a career fair as a freshman, like it's really not expected that you come out with an offer or anything because a lot of companies are not looking for freshmen. So I kind of went in to have fun, and honestly, I had a lot of fun. It was a fun time. This guy like basically threw like merch in my face, and he was like, take it, like take these shirts. And I went to the Google line and I talked to the lady, and she clearly had no interest in me, but I still talked to her. I didn't expect anything, and I kind of thought that that was what everyone else was thinking because we were all freshmen. But then like later on, like a good number of my friends had like landed interviews and were like interviewing, and they were preparing for interviews, and they were doing coding challenges and all that. And I was like, oh my god, like they are so much better than I am. Like I was out here collecting shirts and they were out here landing interviews. I cannot compete with these people. There is no way that anyone would hire me over them. You know, after a while, I kind of learned that like it doesn't matter how many of my friends get interviews from the career fair. That doesn't mean that I will never get a job. So basically, early into my college career, I started comparing myself to others and doing everything that you're not supposed to do. And then, somewhere between then and now, I learned to just be like, it's okay. You are gonna succeed if you just work for it. It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. The only thing matters is your work ethic and how much you are willing to put in, and that's what's gonna affect what you get out of it. And look where I am now. I got a bunch of passes on my report card, and so does everyone else. Thank you for listening to me talk about my struggles and all the mistakes that happened. Now that I've said them all, I feel like I look stupid, but that's okay. I'm also planning on doing like a whole advice for freshman year video, but I don't know if that's gonna happen, considering that there's a good chance that for a lot of people it'll be online, or for a lot of people they're gonna defer a year. So, but anyways, see ya.